Sup nerds, long time no see. Today I am going to show you my National Championship deck profile. I did take yellow LordKnightmon. It was a meta call. It has a very strong Bond matchup, Gabu and Agu, as well as Jesmon, just because of the existence of Sakuyamon as a card. And it just naturally has a good matchup against Dia and basically any black deck, just because DP reduction just kind of dunks on them. Only issues it really has as far as matchups are a Setcon. That's no longer really easy because of the existence of Jawaltformer and Purple, but Purple actually, both Musketeers and Lilith, when I say Purple actually is easy to beat. Once you know that your win con is not going into LordKnightmon. You can't actually do that versus 3 Muskets or Loop because their ceiling for their decks, both of them are just astronomically higher than the ceiling for LordKnightmon. So once you get to the mid to late game, they're gonna win 100% of the time. There's no way for you to win mid to late game in that matchup unless you know that the actual way to win that matchup is to just rush them down with your rookies and champions. That's how you beat the purple decks with yellow, but everything else felt fine. Setcon was the only concern because there's not really a strategy. It's more just ram your stuff into security and just hope that you get there before they either get a defeat on the field that you can't deal with or just you run out of resources. But let's get into it. Starting off as always, we have our Digitama. I am running 4 Upamon. This is the when attacking once per turn, if you have 3 or fewer security cards, trigger draw 1. I've always preferred this one over any other Tama as far as yellow is concerned, just because drawing cards is always nice. But I did run a 5th egg for the first time in a while. This is the BT4 Koromon, the if you have 3 or fewer security cards once per turn when attacking, minus 1000 DP on one of your opponent's Digimon. This does come up occasionally, but the actual only reason I was running a 5th Tama is for the Setcon matchup, which is the only matchup, like I said, I was really concerned about because I knew like how to navigate all the other matchups. This is just like one of the only things I could do to benefit me in that matchup. But having a 5th egg is always nice, lets you play around Izzy and Joe a little longer, and obviously lets you just hide and raising. I wouldn't change these. I didn't mind hatching the Koromon occasionally. It wasn't a big deal. It was nice knowing that I had that 5th egg for the Setcon matchup, so I have no issues running this. On to our rookies. 4 Starmons, obviously. This, along with Sakuyamon existing, is one of the reasons why you have such a good Bond matchup, is because they have to promote if you have a Sakuya on the field and then hope it just lives a turn so they can bond you. This guy is one of the many reasons why that's probably not gonna happen. This guy just deletes their rookies for free. Such an incredible card versus both Bond decks, because if you have 1 body on the field with him, you're gonna kill pretty much anything except for like the 2-drop Agumon, but everything else just dies. Everything else is 2k or under. That's rookie in those decks. But his effect is, I almost forgot to say his effect. His effect is on play for each Digimon you have in play. One of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 1000 DP for the turn. You don't get to go as super wide as you did in BT5 to where you can like neg 8 and 9 and 10k, except for like really niche game states, and you probably already won those games anyway. Popping 3 and 4ks, or most of the time 1 and 2ks, very nice, very relevant for this format. And on to arguably the best rookie in the game. We have our Pulsemon. This is the on play. If you have 3 or more security cards, draw 1. If you have 3 or fewer, gain 1 memory. If you have exactly 3, you gain a memory and draw a card. Excellent rookie, always good. He either turns into a 2-drop, or he's essentially a Drabumon. But awesome, especially when you start playing him for free off the LordKnightmon. Because if you have 3 or fewer, he lets you gain a memory on play, so you actually get to net memory, and that also is relevant for the ice wall situations. So you'll swing into security, and you're like, I have 2 swings, but if I check an ice wall or a hammer spark in security, it's going to pass turn, because I'm at 3, like let's say I have a TK. So I would go to 1 when I swing the first time. But if you play this guy off of the first swing off the LordKnightmon, you'll go back to 2, and then the check happens, and then like if it's a hammer spark or ice wall, you go to 0, and then you can swing with something else. That does come up. Didn't come up for me today, but like that is something that does come up if you play against Gabubon enough. And on to an old friend, Bushiagumon. He has Rush. You get to play him for free, and then he can attack for game. Pretty cool card. Also very nice when you're playing against decks that have access to Ultimate Flare, because it means if they Ultimate Flare your stack, if he's at the bottom, it doesn't actually die, it just de-digivolves it. Keeps them from wanting to do that because it doesn't feel as good when you're paying 8 memory to just de-digivolve a stack down to a rookie. So I'm not running the BT3 Angewomon, so he's only going to be played for free off of LordKnightmon, and you're only going to just be able to hard drop him and swing in certain situations where you're putting a lot of pressure on Setcon and muskets. Like musket early game will sometimes give you enough memory where you can hard drop this and swing, and occasionally Machinedramon, although if they're dropping Machinedramon, he's usually going to have blocker, so you're probably not going to be able to hard drop this and swing. But the reason why I am playing 2 of him is because he's going to get played from hand for free less often without BT3 Angewomon. And also, having him in your hand really sucks if you're just trying to play bodies on the field, like early game, when you're trying to, against certain matchups when you're just trying to rush them. And that's why I cut him to 2. Like, the 5 cost really hurts if you're just trying to put bodies on the field. And if you guys have been following this channel, you'll be kind of surprised by this, but I'll explain why these are in here. Our last rookies, we are running 5 2-drop 3K rookies, 4 Sukaimon and 1 Salamon, but these are the same thing essentially. So I'm running these because 1, it gives me the ability to choke certain matchups, like Loop and Musket, and also just like Gabubon, like being able to choke those matchups specifically is very helpful. And these guys being 3000, if you're playing against the Bond matchups, you can swing in and they beat over all of their rookies. Like, they have to check a champion or better in those matchups to die, and you'd be surprised how often I get 2 checks with one of these guys against the Bond matchup. I've always said I hated these because I'd rather pay an extra memory and get an effect or have some kind of benefit from the body being on the field. But these guys did come up in this meta. The 3K lets you beat over rookies, like I said, against the Bond matchups and security. And also, if they check one of these guys with one of their rookies, they're definitely dying. But the main reason I decided to play these is because against purple, this lets you put bodies on the field for very few memory. The game plan for purple with this deck is to just rookie rush them. Like, I know you guys have seen yellow-green rookie rush where you just play a bunch of cheap bodies and you just swing with your guys and you expect them to die. That is how you have to play against purple. If Buildstar costs 3 or fewer, you probably already lost that game. And Loop, once they get into their loop and just start Zwarding and all that stuff, you're not winning that game. Unless you've already got them to like 0 security at that point, and you can like sneak something out where like if they can't like put enough blockers on the field or something, but you're not winning those games. So the point of these guys was to always be able to put pressure on those and just play these guys, choke them, swing, play another one, choke, swing, like, and these definitely helped. These were very beneficial all day. I only played 1 loop, and I did not play a 3 Musketeers player in the day 1, but I did beat Loop 2-1. It should have actually been 2-0. I misplayed and got a little greedy when I swung into their security game 2, and it cost me to check a Jack Raid and go to 1, and it didn't let me clear their Lilith and their Rebellion because I had to play a Starmons and then Spiral to clear both of them. And the next turn they just went into another Lilith and just wombo comboed me. But these were very helpful in that matchup. Like I said, I should have won 2-0 if I just wasn't greedy and just decided to swing again for no reason. There is a place for these cards, I will admit it. 2-drop rookies do have their place, but this was a very unique format, and that is the reason why I ended up running these. Also, I honestly, for the longest time, I was terrified of purple because I could not figure out how to beat them. And once I figured out that you just rush them down, those matchups actually got really easy. But that is it for our rookies. We are running 15. And on to our champions. We are running arguably one of the best champions in the game, 8mon. This guy is so stupid. This guy is so good. 8,000 DP for a champion. He beats over pretty much all champions besides himself, and all rookies, obviously, and most ultimates. There are some 8K ultimates in the meta, but this guy swinging into security, like, if he's playing against Bond, he's only dying to Bond. Or if you're playing against Agu Bond, he'll die to some of their options, obviously, but Atomic Blaster can only kill him. It can't kill him in something else. One of the main reasons why you run Atomic Blaster is because it can 2-for-1 or 3-for-1 sometimes. It's only popping him. Very useful. Also, he beats over all of the champions in against bond decks, like once they swing with their champion. And then you just promote, Digivolve, swing back over it, and they lose that guy. This guy is so slept on. Like, looking at it on paper, you're like, yeah, 8k, whatever. I mean, that's okay. But I mean, I feel like I'd rather run, like, I don't know, something else that you'd want to run in yellow, like Gladiemon or Pitomon or Wizardmon. Wizardmon's pretty cool, especially if you're running Blinding Ray and or Mastamon. This guy is MVP of the champion lineup and honestly one of the best cards in the deck. And that's pretty wild to say for a vanilla champion. But that 8k DP puts in so much work. Like, I can't say enough good things about this card. Like if you've seen people talk about this card and you just still haven't felt the need to put it in yellow because you're like, man, it just seems underwhelming, do it. Put this card in yellow, and if you do have it at any number, you'll eventually bump it up to 4 because you'll see how powerful it is when you draw it. This is an incredible card. And it's kind of wild that they gave this to yellow first. Like, yellow's the only one that has an 8k DP champion at the moment. And yellow arguably is the best color, just because DP reduction is a broken mechanic, and so is recovery. But, I mean, I will take it. And then on to our next champion. Essentially 8mon, just not as, it's a depowered 8mon. So like I said, against purple, you want to rush them down. And in order for us to do that, we basically have to be able to go into champions that can swing. And for that reason, I am not running Pitomon. I was almost always running 8 blockers in my LordKnightmon decks since BT5, but I had to cut it down to 4, and now I'm just playing 4 Unimon spoilers, so I could have champions that I can swing with. And 6k is going to survive quite a bit. He beats over Lobos in security and most champions, like the entire promote line besides promote itself, he beats over against like purple decks and stuff. And also he crashes with mech. That's also something I forgot to mention. This guy beats over blockers. Like when they have a blocker on the field, they're like, I have a Mechanorian. I'm like, okay, cool. Digivolve swing. What are you going to do? Do you want me to check it or do you want that guy to die? It's up to you. But this guy forces mech to make a choice where they're at least trading with you, but still that's not a great choice because Mechanori usually is like the point of playing that card is so it blocks multiple guys. But also cheap Digivolve, it lets us turbo into our stack in other matchups. But the main reason why we're playing this is because it lets us rush purple. And on to our last champion. As I said, we are running 4 Unimon. A lot of people are under the impression that blockers are bad this format, and that's actually a mistake. It's a misconception. So blockers are, for the most part, bad in the bond decks because it's never a good card in your hand unless you're losing. So why would you play a card if it's only going to be good when you're losing? So blockers are bad in the bond decks, but if you're not playing a bond deck, blockers are amazing because they slow down bond and force them to bond you in order to out the blocker typically. Like, yeah, blockers are still good. Don't get it twisted. I am running 4. This is yellow. We do like to play defensively. I want to see it early against the bond decks because I don't want them to just slam their rookies into my security for free. And also, like, Lobomons and stuff don't get to just swing in to get their EX1 Gabu's effect inheritable. Very good. Also just useful when you're getting kind of low. Like, let's say I am playing Sakuyamon, obviously, but you have Sakuyamon on the field, so you're locking down their breeding area. But either bonds are playing the hybrids. So you definitely want to be able to still protect yourself against the hybrids. So having 1 or 2 of these out is always very nice because you can just lose to people dropping like double hybrid on you even if you have Sakuyamon on the field. That did happen today, but still a very good card. And occasionally swinging with this guy and losing 2 memory lets you choke people to 1, which is that's pretty niche, but it does come up. I have beat over some 5k champions and like choke them to 1. That does happen, but amazing card. Not much to say. Oh yeah, the effect is blocker, obviously, and the when attacking is lose 2 memory. But that's it. We were running 12 champions. A little higher than I normally run in yellow, but like I said, I wanted to be able to rush down purple decks, and missing on champions is gonna hurt that a lot. So that's why I decided to max that at 12, or max that at 444. On to our ultimates. We are running LordKnightmon, so we are running 4 Knightmon. His effect is on play, one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 4,000 DP for the turn. And because of how DP works as a mechanic, if it's 4,000 DP or less, that essentially or effectively deletes it because game mechanic causes it to just immediately be sent to the trash. Some people I've seen talk about like playing less than 4 of this card than LordKnightmon. I get it. It doesn't feel good to digivolve this guy into your stack to go into something, but that's fine to me. I'll accept that. This card is amazing. Being able to play this for free from a LordKnightmon and just start spamming level 6s if your opponent doesn't answer the first LordKnightmon. Incredible. It's really dumb. Also, you can just hard play this guy sometimes in certain game states and just nuke something while putting an ultimate on the field, and if they don't answer it, there's a good chance you're going to drop a LordKnightmon on top of it next turn. A good example of a situation, one of my favorite things to do versus 3 Muskets is if they go first, they'll play Digimon to give you 5, resolve his effect, whatever. So Digimont's 4k. If I have this card in my hand, 99% of the time, I'm going to give them 2 and delete their Digimon. That's an amazing... I'm giving them 2 memory. I have an ultimate on the field. Their Digimon just went bye-bye. That is a huge momentum swing. That's my favorite play to do with this card. Like, just... like speaking just for this meta, but he's just an amazing card. I would never cut this to any less than 4 in this deck. I'll accept the times I have to digivolve into him. And on to an ultimate I haven't played since BT4. Yeah, BT4. Wargrowlmon. His effect is main Digiburst 2. One of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 4,000 DP for the turn. So he's essentially Knightmon, except for it's not an on-play, it's a Digiburst effect. And his inheritable is your turn. While you have 3 or fewer security cards, Digimon gets 1,000 DP. LordKnightmon doesn't really need that DP gain, but we are running a couple other megas, Sukuyamon being one of them. So I'm running this guy because I want to be able to clear Gabumon boards after they Ice Wall me. And this guy lets me do that a lot more often because you obviously don't have to attack. And if you already have him like in your raising area, like you don't have to do anything besides Digiburst 2 cards underneath him to just delete one of their rookies or whatever. He has an 8 play cost, and that means he plays around Shawarma. He does not die to Shawarma, but this guy not dying to Shawarma is very cool, very relevant against Dia if they're running it, Setcon obviously, 3 Muskets obviously. That's the deck that card was printed for. But this guy is incredible. I did miss him not playing him in Star-Lord in BT5 format because he was incredible in BT4. Very nice to have him back, just nuking 4K bodies for free. And our last 2 ultimates, we are running 2 Sirenmon. So this originally was Angelwomon in this slot, the BT3 Angelwomon. She just came up so rarely. Like, she does come up. She can occasionally keep you from dying by giving something -2 checks if you can't clear it. And obviously she plays a rookie for free if you have 3 or fewer security cards. But she did not come up often enough for me to want to keep her in the deck and not play a 2 cost to Digivolve and 5 to hard play ultimate. This card puts in a lot of work against most matchups. Like, bricking sucks a lot less if you have this in your hand, because typically if I brick and I have this in my hand, if I'm going first, I'll let them do something. Like, I'll probably pass in those situations. I'll let them do something, give me a little memory back, and then I'll just play this on my turn 2. And then I'm giving them like 3 memory probably, maybe 4 if they choked me. And then I have an ultimate on the field that I can go into LordKnightmon with. This guy is really powerful, or this girl, I guess. Is really powerful, very nice to hard drop, especially if you have a TK out. Like, you have a TK out and you just play this, give your opponent 2 memory, and they're like, oh, I'm gonna have to deal with a mega on your turn, cool. This card did suck last format, or not last format, we're in EX1 now, but BT5, this card was not the best because it's only 6,000 DP, and obviously BT4, same situation, only 6,000 DP, so Wargrowlmon got to nuke this for free, and Spiral Masquerade, you only had to have 2 bodies to kill this. In BT5, but because we're not playing LordKnightmon mirrors all day, the 6,000 DP is not really that big of an issue. The only time it comes up now is if you get hit with an Atomic Blaster, but you just play around that card if you're playing against Agubond or a red deck typically. And also our 3,000 DP rookies, which we're running math 7, I believe. We're running 5 vanillas, and then Agumon or Bushi Agumon is a 3,000 DP rookie. They can't pop both. So that's another way to play around that card, but amazing card. Once I swapped this out for Angelwomon, I did not regret it. Like the first set I played with this, I did not regret it. It's an incredible card. Very, very nice to have a 2 cost ultimate back in the deck. And on to our boss monster. For LordKnightmon, there's no reason to run any less. The effect is, when attacking, you may play a yellow level 3 Digimon card, or a yellow Digimon card with Warrior in its type from your hand without paying its memory cost. So that's obviously any rookie, and there are currently still there's one level 5 Warrior and one level 4 Warrior that are yellow. It's Knightmon and Gladiemon. As you saw, we're not running Gladiemon. It being as small as it is, and also Shawarma being a card, it's nowhere near as good as it once was. But Knightmon, obviously, you're still playing because that card's really good when you play it for free. And her secondary effect, all turns, for each other Digimon you have in play, this Digimon gets 1000 DP. So she gets really big, really quickly. If your opponent does not answer your board almost immediately, they probably lose. And something else that's relevant, the 13 play cost. So if you're playing against a deck that has access to Zwart cannot out this because Zwart only hits 12 costs or lower. So you can play around that sometimes. Like sometimes I will swing into a loop player when they have a Zwart on the field, and I'll play a Knightmon, then Digivolve another Lord Knight onto that, and then they can't out it, but they know they have to swing in order to run over the other Lord Knightmon. So like they know their Zwart's going to die in that situation. Typically, you wouldn't want to get in a situation where a loop player has already dropped a Zwart because you're very close to losing that game anyway. But that is something that does come up occasionally if you are put in that situation. Incredible card. I know you guys missed this from BT5 format, but it's still really good. Not surprising, the effect just on paper is broken and all the cards interact with it. Just yellow as a color is probably always going to be strong just because of, like I said, the DP mechanic being broken, and also just being able to recover is also very, very good. And our next mega, an old friend from BT4, Yellow WarGreymon. So Yellow WarGreymon's effect is when attacking, once per turn, you may add the top card of your security stack to your hand, unsuspend this Digimon, and have one of your opponent's Digimon get minus 6000 DP for the turn. For those of you that played in BT4 format, you either remember this fondly or you have PTSD from it. But this card was an absolute monster in BT4. This guy alone existing made blockers pretty much irrelevant. You could play them still, and obviously it was so good to play them, but if this guy comes out, blockers are invisible to him. 6000 DP or smaller, it's going bye-bye before they even get a chance to block. I put this in because he gives you more aggression as well as more destruction. Him and WarGrow are both decisions based on me being able to clear bodies and boards, but he also gives you the added aggression. And because this format has a bunch of decks that are running really tiny guys, he's going to die a lot less often when he checks security. Because in BT4 format, your biggest issue when you were playing this deck is running into a Mega when you didn't have WarGrow underneath him to give him 1000 DP to put him to 12. Now it's not really necessary. If you are playing against like Muskets or something, there's a good chance you could hit a Mega. But against the Bond decks, you don't even need that 1000 DP. He's either checking Bond or Gaia Force, or he's living. Very, very powerful card. I did miss playing this guy, and I was very happy to put him back in the deck. In my testing, he was always incredible whenever I drew him, and he lets you just steal games because your opponent's like, oh, they only have one body. I have one security. I'm gonna put a blocker up, and like I don't think I can lose because like they can't bushy me. But then you're like, all right, so I'm gonna go into this guy, and then like your blocker is gone, he's invisible, he's dust, and then I'm swinging, and then as long as I don't die the first check, you're dying. But very strong card. I'm very happy to have this guy back in a yellow deck. And on to our last mega. We are running 8. Sakuyamon. So Sakuyamon is, of course, a meta call. The effect is opponent's turn. When an opponent's Digimon moves from the breeding area to the battle area, it gains security attack -3 for the turn. So that means if you promote, unless you're playing red and have like Lightning Joust galore and like Tai Kamiya's on the field if you have a Mega, it's probably never checking your opponent's security. And the other effect, which also is very relevant and does come up quite often, your turn, all of your opponent's security Digimon get -3000 DP. So that comes up when you start swinging in with your rookies and champions, because then they start beating over bigger DP thresholds. Also, if you happen to have this guy on the field and a WarGreymon out, swinging with WarGreymon feels a lot better because he's effectively 14,000 DP. And if he has a WarGrow underneath him, he's 15, so he beats over Bonds and Blitz Omnis. Like he's only dying to Gaia Force or Zwart in security. This card basically makes your matchups versus Agumon, Gabumon, and Jesmon a lot more manageable because, like I said, it forces them to promote and then hope you can't kill their Digimon. Typically, with as much removal as we are playing in this deck, it's going to be dead and they're not going to get a security check and they're just going to have to try again with another stack. A very good card. And on to our Tamers. 3 TK Takashi. He is a memory setter, sets us 3 if we have 3 or fewer at the start of our turn. And then his effect is on play, look at your security stack, then reveal 1 card in it and add it to your hand. And if it's yellow, trigger recovery +1, then shuffle your security stack. This whole deck is yellow. As you can see, we're not playing Valderarm, we're not playing Mastamon, although those were in some of my iterations while I was testing. I eventually did cut them, so you're never not going to recover if you check this in security. Like, it's going to add a yellow card and you recover. I'm playing 3 because I want to see this as early as possible, especially against Bond, Gabumon specifically, because if you don't have a memory setter on the field, they're going to choke you to 1 repeatedly. Like, you're never getting more than 2 memory versus that deck unless you see TK Takashi, or you just somehow manage to put them in a position where they have to make a desperation play and give you more than 2. Seeing him is definitely the equalizer. Once you see him, it's pretty smooth sailing as long as you just don't miss on Tsukuyamon. And last but certainly not least, we are running 2 option cards to round out the 50 card deck. You could probably guess what they are, but maybe not, you might guess wrong. So we're not running Blinding Ray. We are running 2 Spiral Masquerade. You guys, I'm sure, remember this from PT5. The effect is, for each Digimon you have in play, activate the effect below. One of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 3,000 DP for the turn. Security is activate main effect. 4-cost option that, depending on how big your board is, you can nuke an entire board on your opponent's side, or just nuke a mega. A lot of situations where they promote and they're like, alright, this thing just needs to survive. I'll be like, alright, so War Growl, Starmons, maybe even War Greymon sometimes, some combination of those 3 cards, and then finish it off with Spiral. And like, no mega surviving that much DP reduction. Very good card. As I said, I'm not running Valderarm. Valderarm was in the list at one point, but I was only just running 1 because drawing multiples felt terrible. I never wanted to have 2 in my hand, but Valderarm just, it never felt really awesome to play. Like, it's a really powerful card, obviously, very good, but playing it gives your opponent so much memory, because like, you're never just gonna play it. Like, if your opponent puts you in a position where you need to Valderarm them, you're never going to be like, alright, start of my turn, I have TK, I'm set to 3, alright, Valderarm. It's typically going to be like, alright, so I'm going to go to 0, and then I'm going to Valderarm, now you get 6 memory. You could probably recover from that in most decks. Once it's on the field, it's cool. It's 14k body, and if they delete it, you get 3 memory. But yeah, it never felt good to drop it, and so I cut it, and Spiral Masquerade ended up staying in the final cut. I miss playing this card. There were multiple iterations of this deck while I was testing that I was not putting this in there, but I am glad it made the final cut. It's very powerful still. If you do start your turn at 3, you can just choke your opponent to 1 while clearing their bodies. Still just as dumb of a card as ever. Unfortunately, Shawarma did kind of hurt this card's playability a little bit, but it's still an excellent card. You're just not going to get like full max, I have 5 bodies on the field, like negative 15,000 DP on your side of the field, everything's dead kind of value, but still an incredible card. But that is it for the list. These are my MVPs of this deck. I was very glad I put War Growlmon back in the list. It was incredible. Anytime your opponent ice walls you and you just clear their board without even attacking, it feels really nice because they just went -1 to still lose their board. 8mon, incredible champion. I don't know why they gave it to yellow first, like I said, but I'll take it. 8,000 DP is really stupid on a champion, even if he does cost 2 to Digivolve. Honestly, the only thing I don't like about 8mon is him being a 6 play cost, because there were multiple games. So I'll go ahead and just talk about like my record. I did not do well. I obviously did not day 2. And nearly every single game that I lost, it was because I bricked on rookies, either going first or second. I just bricked on rookies and just like couldn't do anything. That's pretty bad considering I'm playing 15 rookies, but also all of my, I only play 4 champions that are 5 play cost, and it's the Unimons, and I only play 2 ultimates that are 5 play cost. So bricking on rookies basically means I either am forced, if I even drew one of those 2 cards, I'm forced to either give my opponent 5 memory or hard pass the turn, because I'm not hard playing something for 6 to start the game. That's just, I think that's a death wish against, even if you don't know what you're playing against, it's probably a death wish in this format, especially at Nationals. You'd be very lucky if you don't lose, like hard lose a game like on your opponent's first turn, essentially, because of what they're able to do with 6 memory. And that did happen several times today. I did play very good opponents. Everyone obviously earned their invite to the National Championship. So I'm not taking anything away from the people that did beat me. And there were a few misplays. I can think of, I think 3 off the top of my head. One of them cost me a game that potentially cost me the match because I lost game 1. And that misplay cost me game 2, or vice versa, one of those two. Whereas if I did not do that misplay, we would have gone into game 3 and I potentially could have won the match. But I was already out of day 2 potential at that point. I was just playing just to play. One misplay cost me the game, but did not cost me the match. It was versus Little Floop. I misplayed on some math, and it cost me that game because he was able to loop me on that turn, and I essentially just lost from there. But I won game 1 and game 3, so it ended up not really mattering besides like tiebreakers potentially. And there were a few other, like, they didn't flat out lose me the game misplays, but they did swing the momentum heavily in my opponent's favor for that game, and most likely were like, they were the root cause of me losing. They just didn't flat out cause me to lose like the next turn, basically. And then the rest of them were to just hard bricking, no rookies going first or second. And unless your opponent also opens up mediocre or misses on rookies, this is not a format where you can brick on rookies. So almost all of those games I lost. I'm not sure I won any of them. There might have been one, but that was probably because my opponent also opened up poorly. You know, that's the way the cookie crumbles. I'm not upset about anything. I mean, variance is something we have to deal with. This is a card game. So, I mean, I accept that. I'm not, like, super tilted or anything like that. So, shout out to people that day 2'd, and also congratulations to everyone that did earn their invite and get to play in the National Championship. Hopefully, myself included, we all get back there next year, and hopefully maybe I can day 2. We'll see. I am going to be going to the Digimon Fest in Miami at the end of March, I believe. So maybe I'll see some of you there. That'll be fun. It'll be the first in-person like event that I've participated in. So far, it's just been locals and sword championships that are in person for me, but that'll be fun. Moral of the story here is LordKnightmon is still good, even though it's not like tier 0.5, tier 0 like Borderline was in BT5. It's still an incredibly good meta call. I was not the only person to bring LordKnightmon to Nationals, so I wasn't the only person that realized this, obviously. There was at least one LordKnightmon that top 8'd. Congratulations to that person. And there were, from what I was told, a bunch of LordKnightmon people, like LordKnightmon deck list in Nationals, because TAC made the deck list public. So before Nationals started, people were just snooping through and looking at everybody's deck list. So I definitely was not the only person. Actually, round 1, I played against the mirror. It wasn't like shocking because obviously I made the conclusion this is a good pick. So I've accepted that other people, like I'm not the only person that made that choice. But it was pretty surprising to run into it round 1. But this card existing is the reason why this is a good meta call. And the fact that just yellow is dumb, just with all of its mechanics. But yeah, now that Nationals is over, I'm no longer going to be preparing super heavily and just like sweating, just grinding, playtesting for like the few weeks we had leading up to Nationals. So you will see me producing content on a regular basis once again. I do apologize for the break, but I had to make a choice of either go try hard for Nationals or produce content or do half and half, whereas neither one really wins there. Like I either produce like not awesome content and not consistently, and I'm not preparing as much as I can for Nationals. So I made the choice to just put my tryhard pants on and just grind for Nats. Obviously, it didn't work out for this tournament, but honestly, all of the playtesting and grinding and labbing that I've done over the past month preparing for Nationals has made me significantly better. Shout out to Spencer, Buck, Alex, and everyone else from my locals. I've been playing yellow at my locals every week just as another way to just like go over my list and decide what's good and what isn't. Obviously my locals isn't going to be 100% meta every week, but still, like, I knew I was going to see random stuff at nationals anyway, so like if I lose to a rogue deck just because it's that deck, like, I wanted to know. Shout out to my wife for basically clearing our schedule completely for the week leading up to nationals. I would go to work and then I would come home and then I would just lock myself in my office and play test for the next like 7 to 8 hours for the week leading up to nationals. That was quite a bit. Honestly, we did so much grinding playtesting for nationals that the 9-round day one didn't even feel like anything. Like I had played for several hours, like non-stop or so often leading up to nationals, that a 9-round event where you just play a match and then you have a break until the next round starts honestly felt like easy. I was like, oh man, this is super chill. Like, I just play around and then I just sit here for 20 minutes. Whereas what we were doing when we were playtesting is we would roll a die at the beginning of the playtesting if we switch decks, and one of us would go first, and then we would just game ends. All right, you go first. Shuffle up, play. Game ends, all right, you go first, shuffle up, play. And we would just do that back and forth. We weren't even counting matches. We were just going back and forth, keeping track of games won, and tracking some other stats. And that was like for several hours, so I can't imagine how many actual like matches worth of games that would be. But yeah, like playing a 9-round event just felt easy after that. Also, shout out to Spencer for basically, so Spencer, me, Alex, and myself, we qualified for nationals, so we were going to play. Spencer did not qualify, but he gave up, like, he cut into his sleep schedule. Like, he was always willing to help us playtest, and he was always willing to build and just throw together whatever we wanted to playtest against and just play us for hours while we figured it out. So shout out to you, Spencer. Greatly appreciated. Something that Spencer helped me discover, or we discovered together, I would say, is, so I was terrified of purple with this deck. Like, it felt unwinnable, basically, like either loop or muskets. And Spencer had been playing muskets for like all of BT6 and as well as EX1, so like that was what I tested against the most starting off, just to like figure it out. Alex played Gabubon, so like I got a bunch of Gabubon testing in as well. But fun fact, I haven't seen anyone else make this realization, but we actually discovered, because we started tracking the turns it took for me to win, because we knew that once muskets got to, basically you don't want them to get to where she cost less than 4. We realized after we started tracking turns, and turns that I won, is if you let muskets see 7 turns, they are going to be able to pop off on you. And the issue with this deck is once they pop off, I can't answer that board. Like, I could build yellow to answer that board, but then my matchups versus everything else get hurt, and it's just not good. Also, like, because muskets isn't like, it's not like dominating the meta. Like, I didn't even see one at nationals, but I needed to be able to beat that deck if I ran into it, and up until that point it felt kind of unwinnable unless they drew like super poorly. So we made the realization after tracking turns, if they ever saw their 7th turn, I was going to be put in an unwinnable game state. Once we tracked that and realized that that was the case, there was only one game where he was able to pop off on me prior to turn 7, and it was, one, because of a misplay. I got a little greedy and didn't answer a hard drop Rebellion, and it let him go into Gundramon to mill 5 cards. But one, I allowed that to happen, and 2, he milled all options and 3 musketeers. Like, in his first like 3 mills, it was just all the stuff that made her cheap, and he popped off on me on turn 5. But that was because he milled Super Broken. That happened one time in our testing after we discovered the 7 turn rule. If you're playing a deck that can't answer a Beelstar or a musket board after they pop off on you, like when Beelstars essentially are effectively free, you have until they hit turn 7 to kill them. There's a slim chance that you can let them see a turn 7 if they have no security left, and then you can like have something in raising and like potentially like kill the blocker if they don't put up more than 1. and kill them, but it's gonna be tight there. And if obviously if you don't kill them that turn, they super win, because it's basically like loop. Like once they get there, like it's over. So it actually, if you've also been watching this channel, you know that I love going second. I have never picked going first. We also realized that it is correct to go first with this deck versus both musket and loop. You want to be ahead of them on turns if you can, because it gives you that extra turn before they hit their turn that like they pop off on. Felt really strange, but once we made that discovery and I had the 7-turn clock, he actually only won games if he milled super broken or I just misplayed. That was it. So yeah, shout out to Spencer for allowing us to make that discovery. So if you have an issue with playing against musketeers, do keep that in mind. If you can't answer a musketeer's board once they pop off on you, you have until they hit turn 7. So don't let them see turn 7 and you won't have an issue with that deck anymore. But like I said, all this grinding has made me significantly better. Like I know that to be true. Whether I performed well at nationals or not, like I know that like not only has it opened my mind to things like going first being objectively correct in certain matchups, but playing 2-drop rookies and playing one-ofs. There weren't any one-ofs besides the Salamon in this deck, but like I've actually opened my eyes and realized that one-ofs are correct in these situations where like it's a card that you want to see in certain situations, but you never ever want to have multiples in your hand at one time. That's a situation where you want to play one of. Like I was playing one Baldur. It was the perfect ratio. Like I saw it as often as I really wanted to see it. But the only issue I had with it was just giving my opponent too much memory when I played it, and just did not. It was underwhelming for the amount of memory you have to pay to drop it on the field. But not just that, but like lines of play and stuff. Like over the past month, I have doubled the amount of Digimon that I have played, like since I started playing, like almost a year ago. Sounds pretty insane, but I really didn't do a whole lot of like just play testing. I played for fun a little bit outside of tournaments, but it was mostly just I went to my locals and I participated in online events when I signed up for them. That was it. There's a little bit of play testing here and there, but not really anything serious. Maybe like, I mean, less than 4 instances total of me just play testing outside of tournaments up until this past month when we started grinding for nationals, where I've just been like in the lab, just grinding hardcore, just going over my deck. I think I've like hit a new level of playing after all that grinding. And like I said, it's opened my eyes to certain things, certain game theory ideas, like the going first is correct sometimes, and one-ofs and all that stuff. But just like deck building and things like that, like it's really opened my eyes. So I am thankful to everyone that did help me playtest and come to those conclusions. But I know that that was a very long ramble. I appreciate it if you stuck around to listen to me just reflect on the past month or so, but stick around. Definitely going to start producing content, like I said. I appreciate you guys stopping by. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content and want to come back for more. But until next time, see ya.